Ikpomwosa's bright-eyed smile will now be forever associated with London's ugly and underground problem of child trafficking. The boy whose body was found in the Thames a decade ago is just one victim who suffered the worst fate in the hands of the criminals who bring children here illegally. Tonight, our correspondent Ronke Phillips, who tracked down that name and face, reveals more about Ikpomwosa's background and speaks to those in London who say he is far from being the only child who has lived or is living here in such hidden and dire circumstances.
She cared for the boy whose body was recovered from the Thames for a whole year. And yesterday she spoke warmly of the child we now know was called Ikpomwosa.
And how was he as a boy? What kind of boy was he?
He's a lively boy, he's a very nice boy, and he's also intelligent.
To anyone on the outside, her life appeared normal, but Joyce Oshiagede was an illegal immigrant who managed to live in Europe for 10 years without a valid passport. Hers was a world of illegal immigrants who carried false documents and used assumed names. Her estranged husband, Sam Onyegogovi, was arrested in Dublin on an extradition warrant in 2003. Detectives have been looking for him for a year, but he'd been using a false name. He was convicted in Germany of offences linked to identity fraud and people trafficking and sentenced to 7 years. When Joyce was arrested, she had 2 names stored in her mobile phone of interest to police. The first was a woman who lived in Lewisham, the second a man called Kingsley Ojo.
Kingsley, my auntie in Canada, gave me Kingsley number. That then I just came to Scotland.
He may have been a friend of her aunt's, but Kingsley Ojo was also a people trafficker. He was arrested in these police raids in 2003. He admitted 4 charges and was jailed for 4.5 years. Detectives have always believed the boy, whose body was recovered from the Thames, was also trafficked into the UK, but they have no idea who by. Joyce says she was asked to look after him by a friend who was being deported. She says she then handed him on to a man called Bauer.
I gave Ikpomwosa to Bauer. Listen carefully, please. I gave Ikpomwosa to Bauer. And when I got to Scotland, Britain, he said Ikpomwosa is dead.
Passing children between relatives and friends isn't unusual in transient groups whose lives are lived away from authority. This woman, who doesn't want to be identified, worked in a school in Southwark where children went missing all the time.
With one particular boy, we started to ask questions about his welfare and we were worried about him, and within, I think it was 3 or 4 days, the person who was looking after him said that he was going back to Nigeria. He didn't come to school one day. We tried to find out what had happened to him. We were never able to find out why. A child goes missing, but you're not really sure if that's their real name. You're not really sure if that's their real family, what they were doing here. It's a very secret world.
A world so secretive. When a 6-year-old boy was mutilated, his body thrown in the Thames, no one came forward to claim him. We now know his name was Ikpomwosa, and Joyce Oshiagede has identified a photograph of him. The final chapter in this story will only come when detectives delve deep enough into this murky world to find his killers. Ronke Phillips, London Tonight.